Where do you want it?
Like center to him. Like center.
So yeah, I told you it's gonna be a little awkward. Put this right on the table.
Is that in your waiver?
We'll find out. Figure this stuff out. So I guess the answer would be yes, but it's okay. I'll do it from here. I'll be able to zoom I'm going to go put this microphone down here so we can catch all the audio. Frankie, is there going to be a lot of folks speaking during this process? Is this where the sound's going to come out, or is it over?
Good afternoon, members of the media. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We have about 30 minutes before the governor needs to leave to his next appointment this afternoon. As part of his commitment to transparency and good governance, this is the third press conference within his second month of his administration. So he's keeping it forward to make sure we're communicating to the general public and to the members, our members at the legislature and across the community. Today's focus will be the 2023, the revision to the 2023 budget. So I'm going to go ahead and ask the governor to begin our press conference this afternoon.
Thank you, media partners, for joining us this afternoon. As many of you, or all of you know, I have transmitted the revised 2023 budget to the legislature this morning. And again, even as you all know, that we were working on revising the budget because it was necessary to do that. At the top of that list is that because the 2023 budget had embedded funding from ARPA and from CDL, from Community Disaster Loan. Those funds are pretty much depleted, and so we needed to make those adjustments just on that. Secondly, we also needed to revise the budget because the present 2023 budget did not include much operational funds to run this government. One of the most biggest one is the Medicaid max and the 25% retirees pension is not embedded in the general fund. That was embedded in supposedly in CDO, and unfortunately CDO funds are pretty depleted. In fact, I believe finance believe that they're overspent that in the previous administration. I am proposing the proposed budget that we've submitted to the legislature. This makes a very painful proposal. We will have to cut costs, and one of the costs that we will have to cut is a downward departure, total, the 80 hours to 72 hours. Initially, we were going to propose to do a 20%. As you all know, ARPA funds were used in the budget at 20%. That's equal to 16 hours. But when we're making adjustments, we wanted to see whether we can at least minimize the pain to our employees. And rather than going 64, we propose to go 72. We're proposing to go to 72 and use the additional revenue that we believe would be realized in the last 6 months of the fiscal year. So we're going to use that for 8 hours of the total hours and make that 72 rather than 64 hours. You know, we had at one point $600 million provided to the Commonwealth government. And we depleted that pretty much in 18 months. And so today, you know, I submitted the budget, revised budget to the legislature for consideration. As you all know, I do hope that we act expeditiously, one, to adjust the resources, the general fund resources. So that requires an amendment to the concurrent resolution for the resources available and include the additional funds. And the other parts of it I've just articulated, that we're gonna have to do some major cuts. And this is not the only cuts that we're gonna be making. This is necessary to make sure that, one, we are also basically legal and lawful in expenditure of public funds. If you recall, the former Secretary of Finance assured the legislature that the 25% was going to be paid out of CDL. Well, no, CDL no longer exists, and we need to fund that now under the general fund. In the general fund, that object class, that expenditure is not authorized. So we need to make that. That's one glaring example. The other ones are the operation, other parts of the operations of this government, all branches of government. Again, I seek the expeditious action of the legislature, one way or another. If we're not successful to come to a solution on this, then of course, as the governor, I'm authorized to make the necessary adjustment. Some of those authorities are in the Planning and Budgeting Act. And one of them is to cut across proportionate cuts across all branches and all programs of government. We don't want to really do that at this point. We want to see where the priorities are and put those funds where priorities are and move forward for the next 6 months. We're in a austere situation. I wish we weren't. But again, that's where we're at, and we need to do something. We had the unpleasant responsibility of going through the numbers, the Department of Finance, as well as the legislature and OMB and other fiscal professionals have looked at the numbers, and this is the situation we're in, and we've submitted. We're transmitting the work to the legislature for their consideration. I would like to ask the Lieutenant Governor.
Well, thank you, everybody. There are some positive developments on the economic activities as of now. The governor mentioned that have led to purpose this revision budget. And based on the collection posted on the first, second quarters of the current fiscal year, our analysis of the trend in the previous 3 fiscal years, we are projecting a modest of about 11% increase in local revenue collections, or about $11.8 million. Now, these funds will be reallocated to government operations and priority obligations for the remainder of the fiscal year. And we remain committed to ensure the continued payment of debt services, continued payment to the government obligations for the settlement fund, and of course the public school system, allocation of $1 million to cover up group health insurance for the remainder of the fiscal year, support for the Commonwealth Healthcare Corporation's network program, formerly known as medical referral, with $1 million, which is on top of the $1.16 million already provided to CHC in Public Law 22-22. Support for public education institutions and other critical functions of the government, outside sources, including compact impact funds and CWPs. And while we made this necessary adjustment in our 2022 budget, Governor and I will continue to aggressively pursue federal reimbursement owed to the Commonwealth, so that these funds can be applied to the local match requirement for medical, Medicaid, and 35% portion of their retired pensions. Work with federal funders to obtain with direct federal financial assistance to grants and other programs that support government initiative. Partner with the private sector to enhance entrepreneurship and business development.
So, that's where we're at today, and we've had the opportunity to engage with the legislative branch through their committees and through members who are part of the fiscal response committee. And like I said this morning, I officially transmitted a revised budget. The presiding officers of the legislature, and they will be discussing this with us and our team to take a look at where, and if they have any question for clarification.
Right, Governor, if I could just begin, I just had a question for the Department of Revenue and Tax and also Senate President Edith Dion Guerrero when it comes to, on page 4, on item 1 there, it says about tax revenue, enforcement, taxation and auditing. Is there a specific target that you're aiming for when it comes to those tax collections? I can't help but notice Senate President Edith at the Chamber of Commerce last week, you mentioned when it comes in particular to food stamp retailer taxes, we have about 24 million over the course of just 3 years that was within the last decade. So can you talk more about what your intentions are when it comes to tax collection to help remedy your situation?
Go ahead.
Thank you for that question, Tomas. And yes, we are asking for additional support for the Division of Revenue and Tax. I know that we've had the Senate share their concern about auditing BGR as well. So right now with this proposal and the support for Rev and Tax, we want to first support the staff. We have only 5 auditors at the Division of Rev and Tax, and we'd like to have them work their full 80 hours to focus their time on certain audit initiatives. For tax enforcement, I can't share what those target initiatives are to protect the integrity of the audit, but we know that with this budget package, it would allow them to continue to do their work and ensure that the revenues that are projected will be realized.
Right, and just my second question, Governor, you make a specific ask here for a temporary 50% reprogramming authority. Just your comment on why you need that 50%, and also seeking comment from the legislators who, in the previous legislature, were vehemently against expanding the governor's reprogramming authority, and if that's changed because it's no longer Governor Torres.
No, to that last question, let me answer that. No, it's not because of that. All I need and all we need is some sense of flexibility, because we're pretty much in a crisis situation. I'm not sure why Governor Torres asked for 100% of programming authority last fiscal year, because he had $400 million, and he could have purposely put those in order. But, that's an ask to the legislature. And it's basically for flexibility. And because the time frame which we had to put this revised budget together does not allow us to project the priorities. It is an additional, I think this is the lowest any governor has ever asked for reprogramming authority. I think all governors in the past have asked for 100% reprogramming authority. But, it's basically for that flexibility for the next 6 months.
Mr. Finance Secretary, just clarification on the numbers. Like the Lieutenant Governor said, there's 11 million increase in revenue collection. So from 109 as originally signed last year, the net gross revenue went up to 116. So can you explain a little bit more what happened to the numbers that necessitates this spending cut?
So, thank you for that question. In regards to the revenue projections, we looked at the actual collection trends compared to our revenue forecast that was provided in the FY23 budget. And we noticed a slight increase by 11%, and so that was the difference between the original budget at 104 million and now is at 116. However, we are not yet at pre-pandemic levels. And so with that said, the slight recovery is really due to an increase in business gross revenues for the retail, hotel, and construction industries. We are cautiously optimistic about this increase, and we will continue to monitor the increase in revenues as we go, and if we notice any changes, we will advise the government.
Mr. Governor, you mentioned throughout this whole process for the last couple of months, you've talked about how you've been working with the legislature to try and identify what we actually have left and how to move forward through that. Just a few minutes ago when you were speaking, you mentioned that if the legislatures can't come to an agreement with regards to what you're submitting, that you'll still have the ability to make some changes. Have you already been working directly with the legislature on this? Are you expecting some pushback at all from your colleagues in the House and Senate?
Well, no, I'm not expecting, to be honest with you, I'm not expecting any pushback. But there's always that possibility. It's always in the realm of possibility that with the time that we have, it might be necessary to just begin to make those adjustments under the Planning and Budgeting Act.
Well, thank you. Also, just had a question from one of our viewers that asked about how will this have an impact on tax rebates that people are expecting?
I'd like to say that the Division of Revenue and Taxation continues to work hard to meet the April 15th deadline for taxpayers to submit their tax returns, and there will be no change to their effort in processing those tax returns. We are still anticipating the federal credits that are refundable, which are the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, and all of those credits that we receive funds directly from U.S. Treasury for. So there will be no reason to hold back those tax refunds. And then we will start processing local refunds after that. So I don't anticipate any delay in issuing those refunds.
So the regular tax refunds, the funding for that hasn't been affected. That would still go through, not just the federal one, sorry, but the locally paid taxes. Thank you.
Yeah, we are still anticipating to release those refunds.
Can we have a statement from Senator De Leon Guerrero and Speaker Pilla Gomez?
Thank you. You know, we don't have to repeat what the governor's saying, but obviously, the FY23 budget submission, which is a modified budget, has to be reviewed by the legislature, and personally, I don't anticipate much debate on the issue. It's quite obvious based on, if you notice the newspaper from the last passage of FY23, we came in at net revenue of $109.78 million. Today, with the increase of 11% collection of the 2 fiscal years prior in the current fiscal year, two quarters of the current fiscal year, the additional funding that has been collected by revenue and tax, it shows that there has to be some modification. However, we're not yet at that level of recovery, obviously, and with the statement of the governor saying there's no more ARPA money, funds have been depleted, the FEMA CDO money is no longer there to guarantee the 25% for the retirees and the Medicaid match. So now they have to tap into the local revenues that they are collecting as they're monitoring the cash flow projections of the government collections. So, but again, the legislature still has to sit down and take a look at the numbers and come to an agreement with the administration also, so that we can push forward in the passage of the modification of FY23. Thank you.
Thank you, Senate President, and likewise, no need to repeat everything that's been said. Tomorrow we will have a session at 10 o'clock. The process to get this revised budget going, of course, will commence tomorrow morning. We have a member of our fiscal team here, and our chairman of Ways and Means, Representative Ralph Torres. The other 2 members, unfortunately, cannot make it, but they've been meeting regularly with the governor's fiscal team as well as the Senate's fiscal team weekly to get updates and to work on the details leading to this point. So that should smooth the process a little bit when we go through the process of getting this revised budget passed. So we stand ready. Of course, we're not really going to push back, but like the governor said, you know, or like they say, the devil's in the details, so when we catch those things, of course, we will, be working closely with, the governor's team as well. Thank you.
Mr. Governor, did you incorporate any of the recommendations from the fiscal summit that was held in 2022 in this budget proposal?
Yes.
Could you tell us?
You know, one of them is, you know, a lot of the expenditures, like operation expenses, like phones, car leases, all those are very low-hanging fruits that we can immediately make. Now, we need to pivot out of that and look at the specific recommendations of that, of the recommendation of the summit, and perhaps incorporate those in the 2024 budget submission. Because today, the situation, the revision that we're proposing is time sensitive, and so we don't want that to be part of the discussion right now, because we want to try to minimize the controversy of some of those recommendations, like additional taxes on some items and whatnot. But certainly, the 2024 budget code will give us that time to consider that, and also the legislature will have time to consider those proposals.
And Governor, we heard that you met with the mayors of Rota, Tinian, and the Northern Islands. Can you talk a little bit about the details and the approach to those municipalities? We know, for example, the Rota mayors, half of her staff, at least last we checked when she was first elected, are ARPA funded and they reduced salaries. So what's happening over in Rota, Tinian, and Northern Islands?
We had a conference yesterday or the day before, and they understand the situation, and proposal was laid out to them, and they pretty much agree. I mean, it's a consultation process, and we had a fairly robust, long conversation and discussions about the proposal, and they understand. They understand the urgency of the need to do this. Otherwise, you know, not to do anything would not be the best option. So, yeah, we have a very productive.
We do have you have an appointment for 15, so we'll entertain 2 more questions if there are any. Oh, Kandit has one question. Oh,
Kandit?
Madam Secretary, have you been able to review the FY 2020 audit of the federal funds? And if you have, can you explain the audit's finding that some 54 million in tax rebates have not been paid?
Thank you for that question. That's regarding the FY 2020 single audit tax rebate payable. Now that amount, I believe she said it's 54 million. I don't have the exact amount at the top of my head, but that amount includes tax rebate payable since inception. Meaning if there are any outstanding refunds, those are remain on the books. I can tell you that as tax director, we know that that amount also includes taxpayers that have passed away, taxpayers that have moved off island and have yet to claim those refunds.
How will you guys pay it?
Again, we process tax refunds on a yearly basis, and so that amount continues to go up for the liability of the government. Again, that total tax rebate payable includes the amount dating back to before the year 2000. And so, again, there are a lot of taxpayers there that have unpaid refunds that remain on the books.
We'll take one more question.
Mr. Governor, thank you. With regards to recent visits from Mark Hashimoto from Indo-PACOM, are there any updates with regards to the military presence in the CNMI?
Yeah, that was a briefing. You know, I definitely welcome the UNIPACOM and, because they're gonna be rolling out some of the information on the revised CJMP issue. And certainly they're going to be inviting you folks, probably a lot of our departments and stakeholders on Friday. I don't want to speak right now to that. Maybe Mr. General Hashimoto can. We had a sort of a closed door meeting with his team and our team, and it was about a 45 minutes meeting. They kind of generally briefed us on some of the changes that they were going to be making. But certainly the media will be more than welcome to probably join them on Friday at the briefing. They're going to roll it out on Friday. And I think, I believe that you will get more details from them and probably more accurate answers that I could give.
Where's that gonna be, Bill?
It's going to be at the Hyatt, I believe.
That's right.
So, you know, please do reach out to them. You might want to reach out to Danny, who's the director of CDMA. He's the local official that's helping facilitate the meeting.
Thank you.
Sorry, one more final question from
Just-
Tomas.
Right, just a quick question, because the other piece to this is the accountability portion. It's virtually impossible to get a comment from the OPA or Attorney General's office. Can you shed any light on what's happening on that end?
What do you mean?
To hold who
Virtually
over,
impossible.
well, they're not
Okay,
they never respond to comment.
All right, okay, and I'll be very frank with you. I've talked to the OPA and asked them for assistance. I've talked to the Department of Finance, and obviously I cannot speak about the efforts of the AG. I'm pretty sure that he's taking a look at some of those issues, but in my discussion with OPA, our discussion with the OPA, we asked her, because they're finalizing the contract for the fiscal year 21 and 22 audit. Okay, and I asked her, would it be possible for you to include a forensic audit in that contract, or do we need to go to an RFP, a separate audit? And she says she was going to talk to the auditing firm, but I asked her, and I actually asked her to go ahead and put every efforts to do a forensic audit on the federal programs that we have. And if need be, ironically, whatever I can scrape out from the bottom of this ARPA barrel, I will give it to her to do the forensic audit. If not, then we have to figure out a source to pay for that forensic audit. I will also send a letter to the federal government, to the White House, and to Interior, requesting for funding to do those audits. Not only to do the audits, but to also provide training and assistance to revenue and tax. Assistance with additional auditors. As the first question that was asked of Tracy was, so what do you need? Why do you need this additional auditors or personnel at revenue and tax? That's the reason why. And so some of our asks to the federal government is we need additional financial professionals, either temporarily assigned to the Commonwealth to help finance and to provide a training for institutional sustainability on management or fiscal management. So those letters have gone out, but made those offers actually, and officially we made those requests. So I think we all wish that we can have the picture and hold those people accountable for doing the service to the public today, yesterday. But it does take time and effort for people to the federal government to source out. And I have actually, never mind already that funds are depleted. We have pivoted to holding people accountable and look at that through a forensic. Again, to pivot into revenue generation, whether it's through better tax collection, better reimbursement requests to the federal government, and looking at economic opportunities. So we will not just focus ourselves on cost containment. We will eventually, and I'm not gonna wait, I'm gonna let the OPA and the Attorney General work on their process. Obviously, I don't set their timetable. I wish it was happening today, but I don't set those timetables. But I will continue to have dialogue with them and encourage them to please give us some answers.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Governor.
I want to thank you all for the presence here, the legislatures, the media. The next time I have a press conference, we're gonna have to start talking about more pleasant things than what we're discussing. Right? We will continue to work hard. We will continue to be transparent with you as much as we can. But sometimes, revenue and tax or finance cannot give you the answer the time you're asking, but we will try our best. We're working hard, and we ask for communities' understanding on these issues. Obviously, it's not something that we can undo overnight. So, yeah, Luz Mossy, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Governor.
Have a good day.
Thank you, members of the media. Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Hi, Ross. It's a Friday. You're not. Oh,
The mic is okay.
I can do that.